Northern Colorado. This is Kyle, Whiskey 0, Kilo Juliet Mike. I am located in Fort Collins, and I will be net control for tonight's NCARC TechNet. The purpose of the TechNet is to enlighten amateur radio operators on topics of a technical nature. We will do our best to answer any technical questions for the benefit of all those who are listening. If there is a subject that has never been made quite clear to you, this is a great opportunity to find an answer. If anyone feels they have information that will help regarding that subject, please give your call sign, and Net Control will call on you. This net may be interrupted at any time for emergencies or priority traffic. If you need to use the system for an emergency, say break and give your call sign. We will acknowledge you and suspend the net until you advise that you are clear. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? All licensed amateur radio operators with 70-centimeter privileges are encouraged to check into the net. Club membership is encouraged, but never required for participation. Check-ins are requested for the purpose of counting participation, and no checkout is required. This is W0KJM, Net Control for tonight's NCARC TechNet. When checking in, please give your call sign slowly, first alphabetically, then again using the ITU phonetic alphabet, along with your name and location. When checking in, please state if you will have a topic that you would like to discuss. Check-ins will be taken in groups of 3. When I have acknowledged the first group of 3, I will then move on to the next group of 3. I will start by taking check-ins from Echo Link stations. Any Echo Link stations, please call now. All right, hearing none. Any normal station, Alpha through Mike, please call now.
This is Kilo 30 Alpha Delta, K3SAD, George and Windsor, no traffic, but not normal.
K0MLG, Kilo 0, Mike, Lima Golf, Marty, Wellington, definitely not normal.
This is N0EMP, November 0, Echo Mike Papa, with Debbie, K0DBE, Kilo 0, Delta Bravo Echo, one item.
Net Control would like to acknowledge K0DBE and 0EMP, K0MLG, and K3SAD. Next group of 3, please call now.
This is K0HAK, Kilo 0, Hotel, Alpha Kilo, Dave in Fort Collins at 80% normality.
This is Whiskey, WA9FBO, Whiskey Alpha 9, Foxtrot Bravo Oscar, Bob in LaPorte. Normal is overrated.
KF0GQH, Kilo Foxtrot 0, Golf Quebec Hotel, Canton, Wellington.
Net Control would like to acknowledge KF0GQH, WA9FBO, and K0HAK. Next group of 3, please call now.
N0BNK, November 0, Bravo, November Kilo, Rick in LaPorte. And what is normal?
K0AZA, Kilo 0, Alpha Zulu Alpha, Ron in Fort Collins, semi-normal.
All right, Net Control would like to acknowledge K0AZA and N0BNK. Let's open it up to all calls, Alpha through Zulu. Please call now.
KC0ZPY, Kilo Charlie 0, Zulu Papa Yankee, Jack, Loveland.
KD0TYU, Kilo Delta 0, Tango Yankee Uniform, Joe in Loveland, and I'm with Bob. It's a lot more fun not to be.
This is N0NYY, November 0, November Yankee, Bart in Evans, and I am Class AB normal, and I am with N0QXQ, November 0, Quebec X-Ray, Quebec, Jean, and she's quite normal.
Good to hear. All right, Net Control acknowledges N0QXQ, N0NYY, KD0TYU. Next group of 3, please call now.
This is K5SGC, Kilo 5, Sierra Golf Charlie, Dave in Fort Collins.
KD0CTA, Kilo Echo 0, Charlie Tango Alpha, Aaron near Carter Lake.
This is WB5TEX, Whiskey Bravo 5, Tango Echo X-Ray, Dale in Loveland, and is normal half full or half empty?
That really is the question. Net Control would like to acknowledge WB5TEX, KE0CTA, and K5SGC. Next group of 3, please call now.
This is Whiskey 1 Victor Alpha November, W1VAN, and I'm headed over to the psychiatrist. He's going to tell me if I'm normal or not.
KA0TEY, Kilo Alpha 0, Tango Echo Yankee, Ed in Loveland.
All right, Net Control would like to acknowledge KA0TEY, W1VAN. Last call for check-ins. Please call now.
This is KB0YDN, Kilo Bravo 0, Yankee Delta November. Eric, Mobile, Loveland. Definitely not normal.
KF0QGT, Kilo Foxtrot 0, Quebec Golf Tango, John and Eaton, and I don't know what normal is.
AE0CF, Alpha, Echo 0, Charlie, Foxtrot, Ben, Fort Collins, Ian Nobley, Open Relay.
All right, Net Control will acknowledge AE0CF, KF0QGT, and KB0YDN. Let's move along here. N0EMP, you had an item.
Thanks, Kyle. This is the week for the Perkins lunch on West Eisenhower this Wednesday. Being that it's the day before Thanksgiving, I was a little curious as to what the turnout might be. Among the 6 people that I got a hold of today that are regular attendees, they're all planning to go. So it looks as if we'll have a good turnout, even though, again, it's the day before Thanksgiving. 11:30, Perkins on West Eisenhower in Loveland. Hope to see you there. And 0 EMP.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg. Any questions for Greg? All right. Well, I guess not. This is W0KJM, Net Control for the Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club Weekly TechNet. I've got a question if nobody else has one. I was doing a little bit of research. Anytone came out with a new handheld. I already forgot the model of it, but it was saying that it's satellite capable. And I know that there are some satellites that are that have repeaters on them of sorts. And I was wondering how reliable or consistent are those? Because I would imagine the I guess comms window for something like that would be fairly short, and you'd have to have some kind of super directional antenna to point at the thing. But how long does a comm window typically stay open with a satellite like that?
EMP.
Go ahead, Greg.
So, I don't know. That's the short answer. The long answer is, first of all, the fact that they're saying it's satellite capable. A lot of these FM satellites, they use one band for uplink and one band for downlink simultaneously. And some radios can do that and some radios can't. And the bands are typically 2 meter and 70 centimeter. So there's a lot of base station radios that can do that. I'm guessing that when they say this HT is satellite ready, they're probably saying or meaning that it can simultaneously transmit and receive on 2 bands. And then Arrow makes some antennas that are dual band for that reason, for working with satellites. As far as how long a pass lasts, I know there's a lot of YouTube videos on people working satellites, and I would say take a look there. But from the old days of monitoring low Earth orbit weather satellites as they pass by, I'd say probably at least 5 or 6 minutes, and 0 EMP.
AZA.
Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, just confirming what Greg said. I've actually not done any communications with satellites, but I've dabbled with the ISS a bit, and the window is measured in minutes. Like 5 or 6 probably.
Okay, good to know. I guess that leads me into another question. Are they all like FM voice only, or are there any like packet style repeaters up there that I could, I don't know, maybe do some kind of like WinLink sort of thing and send an email to a satellite and then have the satellite send that email all over the place, or is it primarily just voice?
TYU.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I do have a question whenever you get done with this topic. I'm sorry. I should let you know earlier.
No worries at all. It sounds like I've got everybody stumped with this topic. Sounds like I need to do more research on my own end, but if nobody else has anything for the satellite talk, I guess we'll pass it on over to Joe.
Just to kind of continue on your subject, I think Darren Kambaugh had done a lot of that. He's done a lot of satellite stuff. He's the only one I know that's even talked about it. So anyway, you might want to check with him. I guess I have a question, and I'm going to let this drop for a second. I want to build a balun choke, and I want to use a ferrite ring, probably an F240-31, which would handle what we're doing here. But everyone I've seen built, they either use 58 or 8X. And I'm running power here, and I don't know whether that will work with, 600 to 800 watts.
Does anybody have any answers for Joe?
So are you going to just coil a coax through a toroid?
Yeah, that's what I thought, but I everything I've got is running Barryflex, which is equivalent to the LM400, just easier to work with. But you ain't going to run that sucker through that thing 12 times.
You can get these ferrites that are like a tube. They're maybe an inch long, inch and a half long, and the inside diameter is like 0.405 or a little more, so that the large coax like you have will fit through it. So you can take like a dozen of those or more. There's some plans out there on the internet to take a bunch of those and stick them on the outside of a piece of large diameter coax, and then you put a PL259 on the end or whatever you need after you've put all the so you take like maybe a 3 or 4 foot long piece of coax and just cover it with these things and then put a connector on the end.
So I guess what you're telling me is you agree with me that by running 8X or 58 or something like that through that toroid, the power probably wouldn't, it probably would melt it?
I don't know. I've never looked up I run more than 100 watts, so I haven't looked at the power rating on that. And you can also get like silver Teflon military coax that's small diameter that might handle a kilowatt, but I don't know if it would or not. Bob might chime in here on that, but like I said, the other approach I've seen is they just use heavy coax and they run instead of trying to coil it through a toroid, which you're right, you can't do that with the big heavy stuff. They just get all these slide-on, slip-on chokes and slip a bunch of those on the section of coax.
Well, I guess I should explain my problem, why I've been thinking about this. I noticed that I've got a parametric equalizer, the Heil one, and it was making some noise and stuff like that. When I'd key up, it would make noise. Then I noticed it was also coming out of the speaker, surprisingly enough, over there at the computer. So I have got RF on the line coming in. I know that. So that's why I was looking to get something that was probably foolproof. I may have found it, but I just wanted another alternative. I just happened to run across an MFJ 915 balun. It's a 1-to-1 balun, but they use it for choke balun. It's an isolator too. That might do it and put it outside, but I just was looking for an alternative if this didn't work.
ETE.
ET, go ahead.
K6ET, hey Joe, and RG8X is actually rated for over a kilowatt on all HF bands. It starts falling off significantly once you get up to 50 megahertz. So if you were to try it on 6 meter, it is just under a kilowatt. But then when you get down to the higher VHF, UHF frequencies where it's rated for under 300 watts, and then down UHF for 70 centimeter, it's down to about 150, 200 watts capacity with the RG8X, but it's designed and capable of over a kilowatt on HF frequencies at lower than 50 megahertz.
That's good to know. It's strictly for HF. It really is. I mean, it's for the 1200. So, and I very seldom, if I go anywhere high, I'll go to 10 maybe, 10 meters. I very seldom go to 6. But yeah, it's just on the. Believe it or not, it's on the hex beam. It's not on the 680. But I just happened to notice that. So I had thought it was rated at more than what I thought it was, but I just wanted to check with some experts.
Yeah, definitely. Always worth checking. But RG8X is perfectly fine for a choke balun. You can if you didn't want to use RG8X, you could also use enamel copper wire or enameled copper wire and wrap 2 strands around the toroid and solder it to SO239 or whatever type N or whatever connectors you use on your radio or on your coax, and do it that way also for a choke balun. But the coax is definitely easier than soldering and everything else.
Okay, well, thanks. You answered my question. That's great. This is Katie's at TYU. I'll be clear.
FBO, go ahead.
Joe, you're talking about a choke balun. The only job that you are attempting to do is to remove the RF from the outside of the braid of the coax. Is that right?
You're right.
Okay, so you're not looking to match impedances or any of that stuff. When I put up my beam, I used something called a maxi choker. It's made by Palomar. It's $79. I'm sure you could build one just as easily. It's a chunk of PVC plastic with a SO239 on either end. And inside that thing is a whole series of toroids, ferrite beads. And you simply hook this thing up at the antenna, and it removes RF from the outside braid of the coax. I'm sure you could build such a thing, get some mix 31 toroids and so on. I was in a hurry, so I bought the thing. It's good for 3 kilowatts, and I have 0 RF in the shack. So if that's all you wanted to do, you can probably just use ferrites.
Great idea. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
This is W0KJM, Net Control for the Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club Weekly TechNet. Are there any other questions regarding chokes and baluns and RF getting back into the shack? Are there any other questions for tonight's NCARC TechNet? Big double there, nobody won. Try again.
Well, we'll see if I have AZA.
You got it, Ron. Go ahead.
Yeah, Kyle, while you were talking, I just went and did a little bit of research on satellites, and there are actually a lot of them that do digital. If you go to amsat.org, that's Alpha Mike Sierra Alpha Tango.org, they have a database of amateur satellites, and there's quite a number of them. A lot of them do FSK, and some of them do some of the other encoding types. So, yeah, there's options there.
Awesome. Thanks, Ron. I'll have to check that out. Station that doubled with Ron. Go ahead.
This is KC0ZPY.
ZPY, go ahead.
I was looking at getting a Yaesu FTM 500, and I was looking at the output speaker on there, and it says that it handles 8 ohms output, and the external speaker that they recommend handles 4 ohms. And I thought they were supposed to match, but they're saying that that's the recommended speaker. And I was wondering if somebody could help explain that to me a little bit.
NYY.
Go ahead, Bart.
In most call low-power audio circuitry, such as the audio output from your radio. 4 ohms and 8 ohms are both likely to work. They commonly specify, back in the day, it used to make a fairly significant difference if you had a high-powered amplifier like a stage amp for an electric guitar where you could have a couple of 100 watts. It was very important whether you were 4 ohms or 8 ohms, and that most of the speakers came as 4 ohms, and you'd put 2 in series for if you wanted to run 8 ohms. On audio output from a radio like this, it's really not going to matter, so 4 or 8 will both work, and 0 and YY.
Great. Thank you very much. TC0ZPY, back to net.
Awesome. I love it when questions get answered on the TechNet. That's what this is all for. So wonderful. Glad to hear it. Are there any other questions for tonight's NCARC TechNet?
MLG.
Go ahead, Marty.
Your question about satellites was how long you can talk?
Yes, sir.
Well, the time, I had an answer for you, but I already lost it. It had to do with timing, but that was 2 minutes ago. I'll tell it to you later, Kyle, if I remember. K0MLG.
Well, don't wait too long. If our comm window is only open for 5 minutes, we don't have much time left. Alrighty. Well, any other questions for tonight's NCARC TechNet?
W1VAN.
Go ahead, Ivan.
Just wanted to offer the DMR and the Fusion repeaters up on Horsetooth and actually scattered all over the plains here. Greeley has several. The old OJ is now a Fusion repeater. So you got these digital radios. You can steer these repeaters to just about any place all over the world and come out wherever on a net or whatever's curious to look at. Anyway, they're free to steer around and take them for a test drive. If you need instructions how to do that, just ask and I'll help you out. W1VAN.
K0HAK.
Go ahead.
Ivan, can you explain what it means to steer a repeater? I've heard that a few times, and I don't really understand what that actually means.
So the digital repeaters are hooked up to an internet source somehow. So it's like the telephones when that's probably not the greatest for instance, but when they went digital, I guess television. But you're able to put in an area code or a numbering system to an area, which is available on the internet. You can see all of that that's available there. But it's to take the repeater and put it someplace else. You can take this repeater and put it in Washington State, for instance, so that that repeater and this repeater can talk together.
So is that like the equivalent of putting that repeater into like a specific talk group?
Yes, it is actually. A talk group would be a destination or a grouping of similar repeaters that are carrying the same talk group. The talk group could be based anywhere. So exactly right. And DMR, they call it a talk group. And Fusion, the same meaning would be called a room.
Okay, great. Thanks for explaining that. Appreciate that. K0HAK, back to net.
This is W0KJM, Net Control for the Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club Weekly TechNet. Are there any other questions for Ivan? Are there any other questions for tonight's TechNet?
TEY with a question.
TEY, I think it was. Go ahead.
What is full quieting? Sometimes I'll receive a signal report and I'll be told I'm full quieting. Is that just another way of saying you're loud and clear?
NYY.
NYY, take it away.
Full quieting primarily refers to an FM signal. The way the discriminator works on an FM receiver, if you have a strong enough signal to fully capture the discriminator, you'll hear nothing but the audio itself. If you're not that strong, you'll start to hear some hiss along with the signal. And as the signal gets weaker and weaker, that hiss gets louder and louder as the discriminator struggles to sort out the audio from the RF carrier. So full quieting means there is no hiss with your signal at all. You don't hear that on sideband. You don't typically hear that on AM. Well, there's an amount of hiss with AM that's there all the time, but on FM, full quieting just means that you're absolutely full copy into the receiver, and there's none of that characteristic hiss with their signal. And if you listen to different people on the repeater, sometimes you'll hear that full quieting where there's no hiss, or you'll hear a little bit of hiss, or you will hear so much hiss that they're hard to understand. So basically it's a full capturing of the receiver because you have a strong enough signal that there's no accompanying hiss or sizzle or bacon. And zero NYY back to none.
TEY, does that answer your question, or did you have any other questions regarding that?
That fully answers my question. Thank you, Bart. Back to net.
Awesome, good stuff. I've always kind of wondered the same thing. I always knew that it meant that there was no hiss, but I never got the full explanation. So thanks, Bart. You painted that picture so much more clearly for me now. Are there any other questions for tonight's TechNet? Alrighty, well, I don't hear any, so let's see if there's any late check-ins. Any late check-ins, please call now.
Whiskey Sierra 7 Mike 0, ODD, late check-in.
Alrighty, Net Control would like to acknowledge Whiskey Sierra 7 Mike and KF0 ODD. Any other late check-ins? Alrighty, well, hearing none, this concludes the NCARC TechNet. Net Control would like to thank each station for their participation. We had a total of 24 check-ins tonight. This net will occur again next Monday at the same time on the same repeater. This is W0KJM, closing the net at 6:36 p.m. Thanks, and good night, everybody.
This presentation was brought to you by the Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club. For more information, visit our website, ncarc.net. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.